Ladies and gentlemen, a new version of Minecraft has been released. This is version 1.10 of the Bedrock edition. If you don't know what the Bedrock edition is, it is the one that you can buy from the Windows Store, play on mobile devices, on Xbox One, and on the Nintendo Switch. The version with crossplay where you log in with your Xbox Live account. Like I said, this is version 1.10, and let's start off with the fact that this is not the Village and Pillage update. That one will come later. This is sort of an in-between update, but it does add a whole bunch of new and interesting things. My name is slicedlime, I'm here to guide you through the new things in Minecraft Bedrock 1.10, and while this is going to be a fairly comprehensive guide, I have left out some minor bug fixes because otherwise this will just be way too long. Let's start out with blocks and items, and let's start with some combat related things. Shields have been added to Bedrock, finally. Of course, with a different control scheme than on the Java edition, they work slightly differently. If you hold a shield in either hand and then sneak, then you activate the shield. Another thing that you've seen in the snapshots for Java edition for a while, and that was in the experimental section of the previous release, is crossbows. They've now made it into the game properly. For crossbows, there are also 3 different types of unique enchantments. They are multishot, which makes the crossbow shoot 3 projectiles at once with a slight angle in between them. Piercing, which makes your arrow go through the target. And the quick charge, which does exactly what it sounds like. More blocks in this version. Bark blocks and stripped bark blocks have been added. They are called wood blocks and stripped wood blocks for some reason. Existing wood blocks have also been renamed to logs and stripped logs. A new lighting block has been added as well. It's the Lectern, has the maximum light level just as the sea lantern, the glowstone block, and so on. A few of the new village blocks that you might have seen if you watched my snapshot videos for Java edition have made it into this version. They are the Lectern, which is a block that can hold a book so that multiple players can read it at once. You can place either a written book or a book and quill on the Lectern, and the book can be read on there. Note that if you have a book and quill, you can read it, but not write in it while it's on the Lectern. The redstone functionality for Lecterns that you might have seen in Java edition is not in this update, it will be added later on. The second new village related block that has been added is the Loom. The Loom only uses 1 die to apply a pattern to a banner, and it can also use banner patterns to apply special items. Banner patterns are new items that can be crafted using paper and various special items. That means that you no longer need to use up 1 for each banner pattern, instead you just make a banner pattern once. A couple of changes to monster egg blocks. They are now renamed into infested blocks, and if you mine an infested brick with silk touch, it will now drop as a normal block rather than an infested block. Let's move on to gameplay changes and fixes. When traveling through end gateways in the previous version, you could take suffocation damage and have all kinds of loading problems. Those have been fixed, so traveling through end gateway portals is now safe again. When you exited a world and rejoined, your position was sometimes wrong. And also, when you slept in a bed and then later respawned, you could respawn some distance away from that bed. Those bugs fixed in this version. When you shoot arrows at a chorus fruit flower, that chorus fruit flower will now break. A change to sponges: if you place them in the nether, it will immediately dry them out now. And also, there was a bug with lava where it could hurt you through a block corner. That's fixed in this version. A change to furnaces: dead bushes can now be used as fuel for furnaces, and decaying leaves now have a chance of dropping sticks. Also, bamboo saplings will no longer destroy blocks above them as they grow. Let's talk a little bit about scaffolding. It's now possible to climb through snow layers placed on top of scaffolding, and scaffolding no longer gets left hanging unsupported when you place it rapidly. Also, you can now place scaffolding extensions horizontally even though there are non-solid blocks below. Lightning had a bug where it would hit downwards through blocks, so if you had mobs or players underneath a block and a lightning hit that block, then that lightning would hit those mobs underneath. That's been fixed in this version. Kelp could grow in flowing water if that was horizontal. That's fixed in this version. And if you were using the Oculus Rift and went swimming, then you could fly afterwards. And a single redstone related fix in this version: dispensers with shears can now shear sheep. Some control fixes: the descent button now works correctly when you're underwater and you're using touch controls. And if you're playing in virtual reality, then the recenter button has been mapped to Y instead of X. So if you need to recenter your view, you need to hit Y now. Couple of crafting related changes. Undyed glass panes and white carpet can now be dyed directly inside of the crafting table. And rabbit stew and beetroot soup recipes are now shapeless, which means that it doesn't matter which order or shape you put in the recipe ingredients. Let's move on to talking about mobs, and let's start out with passive mobs. Jelly has been added to the game. If you don't know who Jelly is the cat of Minecraft YouTuber Good Times with Scar, who won the community cat contest for being the last version of cat to be added to the game. She is now in this version of the game, and as other cats, she can spawn in villages. Cats can now also be healed by feeding them fish, and they are no longer tempted by food when they are too far away from a player. Turtles no longer levitate above the ground, and passive mob spawning has been fixed so that they now spawn on the correct block types. Let's move on to hostile mobs. Pillagers have been added to the game in this version, but they only exist as a creative mode spawn egg. They don't spawn in the world yet, but they are not in the experimental section, they are properly in the game. Other changes to hostile mobs: creepers will now drop music discs when killed by strays, that didn't work before, and skeletons will now once again attack iron golems. The number of drowned mobs that can spawn in any given area has been reduced, and the pathfinding for zombies when they are chasing villagers inside a building has been fixed. Wither skeletons and vexes can now be renamed with name tags, and the wither's ranged and swoop attacks have been fixed. Another boss change: the ender dragon attacks now show a particle trail. If the mob griefing game rule is disabled, then mobs can no longer destroy paintings, and upside down shulkers now have the correct opening animation. Let's talk about world degeneration. Trapdoors in shipwrecks would rotate incorrectly, that's fixed in this version. Snow layers once again generate around the grass and flowers inside of snow biomes. And strongholds will generate with the correct stair versions again. Mutated birch forest biomes now generate with extra tall birch trees, and the correct amount of white terracotta can now be found inside of mesa biomes. Let's talk about the visuals and the graphics, because this version has the texture update. Well, kind of. It's not the very latest that you might have seen on the Java edition, but it is most of the new updated textures. More will come in a future update. I will not be going through all the blocks because there are very many of them. In fact, most blocks now have a slightly updated look. Some other fixes: hanging banners will no longer show as floor standing banners. If you're playing split screen, then you had limited visibility underwater. That's been fixed in this version. And there was an issue that would cause lighting problems when you flew around. Some chunks would get incorrectly lit. And food held by pandas is now properly sized, positioned, and textured. Let's talk about a number of features that are new but still experimental. That means that you can only play these if your world has the experimental gameplay toggle set to on. Otherwise, these features simply do not exist. Note that these features are not complete and that they can change in future versions. With that said, experimental for this version are new villages and villager behaviors. There are new building types, changed generation of villages, and also bells that can spawn inside of villages. The villagers now have new clothing to indicate their level, profession, and biome, and depending on their profession, they will go to different point of interest blocks. They can include bells and beds for all villagers, but also the different point of interest blocks for the different professions. Those include the fletching table for the fletcher, the barrel for the fisherman, the composter for the farmer, and so on. Together with this, the mason and nitwit villager types have also been added. At night, the villagers will now go sleep inside of their beds, and the trading system has been visualized so that if you approach a villager with something they would like to buy, they will hold the item that they would give for that item. The remaining new point of interest blocks have been added as well. They are, however, without any functionality for the player. They are cartography tables, fletching tables, grindstones, barrels, smithing tables, smokers, blast furnaces, composters, and stone cutters. Functionality for these will be coming in a future update. Another experimental village-like feature: the Wandering Trader. As opposed to Java Edition, the Wandering Trader in Bedrock spawns at village gathering sites. It still has 2 llamas with it, and it will stay for 2 to 3 in-game days before disappearing. It also has unique trades that are outside of what you would normally be able to trade with a villager. On the pillage side of the village and pillage theme, the pillager outposts have been added to experimental features in this version. Pillager outposts will generate in the same biomes that villagers generate in, and pillagers will spawn and keep spawning in and around the tower. Together with pillagers, of course, the illager beast. It is the Ravager from Java Edition snapshots, but it's not actually called Ravager in this version yet, and also it doesn't have animations and behaviors properly. It will be renamed to Ravager and finished in a future version. Here, it's simply called the Illager Beast. Some experimental blocks and items in this version as well. The sweet berry bushes and the sweet berries have been added. The berry bushes can be found in taiga biomes. They are spiky with thorns and will hurt you if you walk into them, and the berries can be picked and eaten. Campfires have also been added in this version as experimental. They are light sources with fire that doesn't spread, but they don't have any smoke or cooking functionality yet. Also, a biome change. The bamboo jungle has been added, and also bamboo now generates in the normal jungles, but of course more densely in the new bamboo jungle biome. Finally, as experimental features, the Minecraft scripting engine has had a bunch of updates. It's still experimental and it's still Windows 10 only. And as I've mentioned in my previous update video, there are documentation separately from this in a link in the video description. And that's it for the experimental stuff. Let's get back to the regular stuff and talk about technical updates for map making, pack making, and add-ons in this version. There are updated templates. You can download them from minecraft.net/addons. They have all the new things for Minecraft 1.10. So if you're making any packs, make sure you get the new templates. One major change when it comes to behavior packs in this version is that entity types can now be added using add-ons without replacing an existing entity type. There is also now the possibility to add and edit particle effects, and also a new system for creating and editing animations inside of packs. You can find documentation for all of these in a link in the video description. Mob events and the behaviors can now be scheduled. There's a new component called Minecraft:scheduler. A change to how resource packs are handled. They are now separate from world templates, which means that you can update them independently inside of existing worlds. Fix for a command. The /kill command used on a chest minecart will now cause that minecart to drop its contents. Also, if you run multiple commands from a function, then all of them will now run with the correct point of execution. And a bunch of fixes to scoreboards. Using scoreboard selectors no longer adds extra characters to player names, and scoreboards now work correctly with custom named entities. And finally, this version has fixes for some exploits where you can duplicate items in the crafting grid or using the recipe book, and a whole lot of stability fixes, including crash fixes, memory leak fixes, and fixes for an issue where the game would just simply not load past the splash screen on certain types of devices. And those are all the major changes in Minecraft Bedrock version 1.10. This version has just started rolling out right as this video is published, so do take note that it might take up to 24 hours for it to reach all types of devices. To get it, head into wherever you normally upgrade apps on your device. That would be inside of the app settings on your Xbox or the App Store or similar on your mobile device. As soon as the update is available for your type of device, it should show up there as an update ready to automatically be downloaded and applied. And that was all from me for this time. I hope you found this update video useful, and if you did, please help me out in return and leave a like. If you want to stay up to date with all the latest Minecraft news, then please subscribe to my channel where I do update videos for every single new version and snapshot released. And also, don't forget to hit the bell icon to get notified whenever the new videos are done. My name is slicedlime, thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.